In this video, we are going to see how to factor perfect square trinomials. Remember that when we are factoring a polynomial, we are expressing the same polynomial, but now as the result of the multiplication of two or more polynomials. First, we must remember that when we have a squared binomial, our result is a perfect square trinomial. This is important to understand because now we are going to do the opposite of multiplying. The problem will give us the perfect square trinomial, and now we are looking for its factorization, which will be a squared binomial. As you can see, the first term in your squared binomial corresponds to the square root of your first term in your perfect square trinomial. The square root of a squared is a, and the square root of b squared is b, which are the first and second terms in your binomial. Now, in order to know which sign goes between the two terms, we have to check the sign of the second term of your perfect square trinomial. Let's see this in an example. The problem asks us to factorize the expression 16a squared minus 56ab plus 49b squared. First, we need to check if this trinomial is in fact a perfect square trinomial. To do that, we are going to take the square root of our first and last terms. So first, let's check the square root of 16a squared. The result is 4a. Now we check the square root of our third term, 49b squared. The square root is 7b. Now we have to check that if the multiplication of 2 times the square roots that we just found, 4a times 7b, gives us the term that we have in the middle in our perfect square trinomial. So let's check. 2 times 4a is 8a, times 7b is 56ab, which is the second term in our trinomial. That means that it is a perfect square trinomial, and now we can factor by opening a parenthesis, writing as our first term the square root of the first term in the trinomial, which was 4a, the sign of the second term, which was negative, the square root of the last term that was 7b. Now we close the parenthesis and write the square. We just found the square binomial that is a factorization of 16a squared minus 56ab plus 49b squared. Remember that the squared binomial is the product of two polynomials. The square represents that we are multiplying 4a minus 7b times 4a minus 7b. Now let's solve a second example. Now we are going to factorize the expression 9m squared plus 24mn plus 16n squared. So first, let's take out the square root of 9m squared, and the result is 3m. Now we take the square root of the third term, 16n squared, and the result is 4n. Now we check that if we multiply 2 times 3m times 4n, we get the term that we have in the middle. So let's solve the multiplication. 2 times 3m is 6m, times 4n, 24mn. It is the second term of the trinomial, so now we can write our squared binomial by using the square root of the first term, that was 3m, the sign of the term in the middle, that is positive, and the square root of the third term, that was 4n, and then we write the square. This is the factorization of our trinomial. Let's solve the third example. Now we are going to factorize the expression 4x squared minus 8x plus 4. Let's check if this is a perfect square trinomial. We are going to take the square root of 4x squared, and the result is 2x. Now we take the square root of our third term, which is 4. It gives us 2. Now let's multiply 2 times 2x times 2 and check if it gives us the term in the middle. 2 times 2x is 4x times 2, 8x. It is the term in the middle, so it means that it is a perfect square trinomial and we can factor it as a squared binomial. The square root of our first term was 2x. The sign of the term in the middle is negative, and the square root of our third term is 2. So this was the process to factor a perfect square trinomial. Thank you for watching this video.